All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to episode number 2 of the Mango After Hours show. Mango After Hours because we do it at the store after we shut it down. Today, we have the honorary guest, Josh Barker, Director of Cultivation of Miami Mango, back again because we're going to discuss AeroFans. Last time that we had episode 1, I asked him what his favorite TrolMaster product was, and he said it was AeroFans. So I decided to bring him back on board, and we're going to discuss AeroFans. AeroFans is a fan line that is made by TrolMaster and gets operated from the Hydrex Pro seamless operation. They're smart sensing, so you can plug them into 120, 240, 277, and they'll operate. And you can operate them directly from the Hydrex Pro. No BFD is needed. Josh, welcome back.
How's it going? How you doing?
We're doing great, doing great.
Yeah, good to see you. Yeah, these AeroFans, they're by far probably my new favorite most. Gotta edit that shit. Yeah, AeroFans. AeroFans are my new favorite product from TrolMaster. Just the customization that comes along with it. You know, you just can't get that with a lot of the other fans on the market. And since we put them in the facility, we've seen drastic changes for the better when it comes to airflow.
Yes, we have. So, a little backstory on the fans. When I was building this facility, one of the things that just about 99% of cultivators do is we watch Instagram. A lot of people watch Instagram for to see buds, plants, and stuff like that. I got a background in construction, so when I look at Instagram, a lot of times I'm looking behind the plants to see how people build stuff. What kind of equipment they're using, whether the humidifiers, fans, ACs, and stuff like that. And I was a fan of the Patterson fans for a long time. Jungle Boys used them. Shout out to Jungle Boys, one of the pioneers and the greats in that cannabis industry. And I seen these big ass fans. They were huge. They were 30-inch fans, and they also have 20-inch fans. And I said, I can't wait till I have a facility that I put these big ass fans on there. So then, as I was building the facility, I seen that unless those Patterson fans, they're 480 volts, they're high voltage, and they need BFDs, which is a variable frequency drive, so you can speed them up and ramp them down. And it was kind of intimidating for I don't have another word for it. A little intimidating to figure out how to wire these things when you talk to Patterson and stuff like that. And then other fans that are in the same category would be like a Schaefer, which they're loud as could be. That sounds like a Cessna. And then the other regular fans were like can fans, and they were all 120. So I made a phone call to my partner TrolMaster, and I said, you know what? All these fans are 120. They draw a shit ton of power. They occupy a lot of space in the electrical panel and a lot of breakers. We need to come up with a fan line that has EC motors. They can be groupable, they can be dimmable, and we don't have to hook them up to a BFD. So obviously, we started developing that product when I was building the space, and then we finally got them. I think about a year and a half into the grow. You know. So tell me a little bit about the fans. What do you like about them?
Well, just when you said it first, the other fans that are on the market are so loud. It is insane. You walk into some of these grow rooms and they're so loud. You can't have a conversation in there to the point where you're like losing your voice at the end of the day just trying to communicate with people. And you put these aero fans in and the room is immediately just an overall quieter environment. So number one, it just makes the environment more comfortable to be in as an employee, as someone a part of a staff, as a cultivator. So that's number one, just comfortability inside the room. Um, Number two, which is actually the most important, is micro. We can talk microclimates for a minute, especially in these double tier systems, right? Microclimates are all over the place. All these double tier systems are new. People built them for the first time, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and so maybe they don't have the opportunity to build a new facility out or tear what they've done down and start over fresh. But with the ability to group these fans, you can have a specific area of the facility or of the cultivation space, the room, that has a dry pocket or a pocket that doesn't get adequate airflow. you can actually group a specific fan in that general area to have a higher wind speed or higher CFM than the other fans in the rest of the grow room. So just the ability to change that and have customization within the grow room is something that we didn't have back in the day. I mean, at the trap, it was like oscillating fans, right? You just had a bunch of oscillating fans on the wall, and they got dirty as hell all the time. Now you have the ability to custom tune these fans essentially, and eliminate, these pockets of a lack of airflow, or maybe it's too much airflow in a specific area, and you can actually dim it down. All these things come into play when you're trying to dial in these grow rooms, especially the multi-tiers. Microclimates are all over the place, so having the customization and the the ability to customize everything, it just changes the game when it comes to airflow in your rooms.
I'm going to touch base a little bit on the trap, because when we used to grow on the traps, when somebody ever built a trap a long time ago, and it was time to spray, it was time to spray. You had to go around the room, and the
Yes.
oscillator fans, and you had to go
Turn every
click,
one of them off.
click on the
Yeah, dude.
cord or turn the
Yep,
knob,
yep.
go around the whole grow room, and then shut them all off, and then you have to spray, and then you have to go back around and turn them back on.
Right,
Um, that got to be a pain in the butt. We'd go figure out. We'd tell the electrician, hey, whenever you wire my fans, put them in a breaker. So then
right.
you shut the breaker
Shut the
off.
breaker off.
Oh, that
Yeah,
was like,
save
oh
the
my
work.
God, that was
Right.
great. That was so awesome. I don't have to walk around the whole
Yeah,
grow
yeah, yeah.
room.
Little things like that
Yeah,
change it.
it's
Yeah, it's
and
great.
then if you take it to the next level, you know what? I don't want to go to the breaker. Let's put them all to a switch. So have to go into the room and then turn off the switch. And I was like, oh my God, this is so simple.
Right,
We can shut off all the fans. Now the problem came when 7 o'clock at night, whatever, or 6 o'clock in the morning, wherever it is, and you're driving to your next spot or you're driving home, and then you go,
I forgot to fucking turn the fans on.
I forgot to turn the fans on. Or did I turn the fans on? Maybe you did, but you can't remember.
Yeah,
So you get on your phone, honey, I'm gonna be late. I gotta turn around. I gotta go back to the spot. And then you'd have to drive back, and most of the time you did forget to turn off the fan, so turn on the fans, or you'd have to turn it back on just to sometimes, I mean, you'd have an hour drive, one way, so it was a 2 hour U-turn. It sucked. You could be almost home, and you got your wife or your chick pissed at you because she had plans for dinner, or you were going out to dinner, and you got to the grow's number one. When you're a grower, growing is life, and it's number one priority, so you had to go back and stuff like that. So one of the things that I was able to tell TrolMaster is spray mode. For you guys that don't know, spray mode is a function on the HydroX Pro that you can set your fans to spray mode. That means you push spray mode on the controller, and whatever set of fans groups, because we can have groups, you can either shut them off completely, turn them down so they don't affect wind drift when you're spraying. So usually like vertical air or air glide airs that's in the canopy that's blowing down, you shut those off. The fans under the carriage, which are under your tables, you turn those down a little bit because they don't really drift the spray, and you still want some kind of airflow in the room. And the high velocity fans up above, where they're Pattersons, Schaefer's, or whatever, you tune them down. And then what happens is, so the guy who's going to spray the sprayer, he pushes spray mode, and it automatically turns the fans down or off to a certain amount of time. If the room's going to take you, let's say, 30 minutes to spray, so you shut off the fans for 35 minutes, stuff like that. So the spray guy, all he has to do is just leave, and then after a certain amount of time, the fans turn back on, dry the plants, finish drying the plants, and then also the lights come back on. I forgot to touch on that. When you push spray mode, if you have LEDs, Thinker LEDs, it'll dim down your lights down to 1%, so you can actually spray the rooms um, in 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 during light time, and you can see exactly what you're spraying. You might have put the sprayer in there under the plants and pull the dripper out, so you can kind of put the dripper back in, or you can see any affected areas. If the grow has powdery mildew or infected with bugs or center, yeah, you can really get into there. But anyway, at the end of the day, he leaves. Oh, he doesn't have to worry about turning anything on, and it turns the fans back on to the preset setting. So that was one of the things that TrolMaster has helped us to do is to eliminate grower or operator error.
Yeah, exactly. And at commercial scale, that's everything. You know, like eliminating errors and variables of errors is so important. And if just an example, you know, a lot we grew up accustomed to spraying these oils, right? For IPM or for powder, whatever it was back in the day, and it was always shut your lights off, shut your lights off, shut your fans off. You know, all those rules that we lived by when we first initially started growing in this space now is truly automated. It's one of the things that it's truly automated. We can shut the lights off for 3 hours or dim them down to 1%, like you said. All the fans can come down. The whole room will essentially shut down, and the employee doesn't have to worry about anything. You know, that there's not going to be an issue where you come back the next day and everything's burnt. You know, and that happens. It happened to a lot of us.
Oh,
It
it
happened to me
happens.
back in the day. You know, it's just it is what it is. At that point, what are you going to do? Right? You burned all your plants. So this is truly something that eliminates those variables of error when it comes to spraying. And I think it's one of the better innovative things that TrolMasters came out with in the industry, for sure.
What's up, guys? I'd like to take this time to thank our current sponsors. First and foremost, I would like to thank TrolMaster. TrolMaster is the king of automation. Nothing else like it in the world. It really is the future of intelligent farming. I also would like to thank ThinkEarlyD, the king of spectrum tuning. High tech, high yields. Last but not least, I'd like to thank Mango Juice. If you ain't juicing, you're losing. By the looks of my surroundings, you think that you've landed in some kind of spaceship. No, you've actually landed on a sponsored ad. A sponsored ad by ThinkEarlyD. ThinkEarlyD is the leader in cultivation technology for lighting, whether it's a greenhouse light, inner canopy light, or under canopy light. ThinkEarlyD is the leader in spectrum control and grouping of lights. All the best growers use ThinkEarlyD. What are you going to use?
Yep, it's definitely changed the game for sure. So another thing that I was doing is when I was building this space, um, all these fans, all these, I wanted to put a lot of fans in this space because everybody told me that, you know, everybody said that, while you're building two tiers, you're messing up, you're fucking it up. You're gonna have microclimates everywhere, and you're gonna have powdery mildew everywhere, and all this kind of stuff. And I said, you know what? I believe that a lot of these issues are because the spaces aren't not being built properly. I don't believe that in a commercial facility there should be any oscillating fans. Oscillating fans are for tent grows or maybe a room, 4 light or 6 light or max. But after that, I just don't think that oscillating fans do any justice for a commercial facility. A commercial facility, I believe it needs to turn over air. It needs to change the air in the space by volumes, and I don't think that directly blowing on a plant is helpful as we've seen and we've learned. I'm going to give you guys an example. In old days, if you had an oscillating fan, after a while they break and they get stuck and they just blow in an area. And if you had a crop, you can see that if you had a crop and wherever the air was blowing on that part of the canopy, it would be dipped. It would dip. I don't know if you've noticed that in the
Yeah,
past.
definitely,
Uh,
definitely noticed it in the past. Yeah,
because it just keeps blowing on, it's beating it up, it's drying it out, it's really not giving the plant a chance to to
it's an
to,
added
to thrive.
stress. It's an added stressor at the end of the day, too.
Right.
You know, the
Exactly. So when I built the space, I just said, you know what, I want to turn over air. I want to turn over air, and then with indirect air going past the leaves. But I definitely there's a lot of stuff that I thought about that I thought was going to work, and it did for the most part. But there was things that we've learned in the facility now once it's operating that there's some things that really didn't work as I planned, and then we've adjusted that. We've adjusted that. We started with the Patterson fans. I believe that the single tier rooms we had 30-inch Patterson fans, which we learned that we don't need 30-inch fans.
right.
They're just way too big, and way too big. And then little bit of directions of the fans. Um, a little bit of raceways is better than all in one direction. We definitely got to change the air from the top to the bottom, from the bottom to the top. CO2 is heavy, and most of the cold air is underneath your carriage, and the hot air rises, and that's where the humidity is at. So you got to kind of kind of
It needs to homogenize. Everything has
homogenize
to
exactly.
homogenize inside that room.
Correct.
Yep.
So I made sure that I put a lot of fans on there, but over the time that we grew, And I remember we used to have some discussions, light arguments, you could say. You had your opinions, I had my opinions, and 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 through some trials and tribulations and maybe some accidents, you could say. I know there was a time that you said, "Hey, Alex, come with me. I want to show you something." There were the girls were defoliating that day, and I think you were busy or something. You got stuck in the office, and then you couldn't go back down and at a timely manner to say to go
Well,
turn the air.
when they defoliate, we have them shut the fans down. We'll put on spray mode so they can sweep up and they can clean so the leaves aren't blowing everywhere because we have the fans under the carriage.
Correct.
And so the girls shut it down, and then usually they'll come let me know, hey, we're done for the day, or somebody will come let me know we're done for the day. Can you turn the fans back on? That day in particular, whether or not they came, I don't remember. You can blame me, sure, you can blame me. But
Forgot.
I go
We
down
forgot.
there and I, I I look at the controller before I go into the room, and I realize that the humidity was extremely low, and it was later on in the cycle. This was the day 42 strip that we traditionally would always do, and I was like, "What the hell? We've never really gotten it this low before in the past at this stage."
Because we struggled a little bit
Yeah, we
with
had some
humidity.
humidity issues,
Mhm.
and so I just started spinning. My wheel started spinning. And I was like, What's different right now? And I realized, oh, none of the fans are on. What's going on? And so I left the fans off for that night. And the next morning when you came in, I was like, hey, check this out. And I brought up the Hydro X Pro, went to the historical graph, and I showed you that from the moment that we stopped the fans blowing at the intensity that they were and brought them down, the whole entire room dropped by like 10 to 12 points of humidity. And so we just went down this rabbit hole of how airflow relates to relative humidity.
So I'd like to go back on that. So I think what happened is that we tuned down the fans. All the undercarriage fans were shut off because the girls can't sweep because as they're sweeping, it just blows the leaves off.
Right.
But we had turned down also the upper fans
Well,
and the air glide fans
the room was on
that
spray mode, so everything was dim.
was dimmed,
Yeah,
right?
and the floor fans were completely off.
Completely off.
So it
Okay,
was
so
just a really like to the point where you didn't even really notice that the fans were on.
we're on exactly. So and we noticed that I think if going by memory, I believe that we were like 5 or 6 points of the humidity was 5 or 6 points lower than we have usually had it at that day, roughly
It
42.
was more like 10 points
10
lower.
points. Okay, it's
I
been a
was
while.
yeah, it was really low compared to what we were at, on average from those rooms at that point in the cycle.
I
You know,
got you. And then at that point in time, we realized that there was such a thing as too much airflow.
correct.
And to touch base on that, I did a lot of tours of the facility while I was building the space. And there was a gentleman by the name of Ramsey Nubani. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with Ramsey, accomplished grower. He's the guy that kind of brought, I believe, Arroya sensors
Yeah,
into the market.
yeah.
Ramsey's a very knowledgeable guy. He did a tour of the spot, and then I showed him all the fans. And he said something to me, wow, that's a lot of fans. You might have too much airflow. And I'm like thinking in my mind, no, there's not really such thing as too much airflow. I didn't say that, but I kind of thought that in my mind. And after we went through this, I actually reached out to Ramsey and I told him, hey, you remember when you came by my spot and you told me that there might be too much airflow, and I picked his brain and I asked him, what made you say that, and do you have any literature on the airflow? And then he says, yeah, he gave me a couple of things to look at, a couple of what's the word that I'm looking for?
You gave us a link for
A
sure. A
link,
link,
a
yeah,
link.
a link.
A link to research, and then from that link is when you said, we went to this rabbit hole that even takes you into barns with cows and all this kind of other stuff. And then what we found out was that I believe it was 1 meter per second was the perfect airflow for cultivation. So that means that every second, the air should travel a meter. So light air going through the plant by the leaf was enough for normal respiration of a leaf. Um, because before we had too much humidity in there, and this is the analogy that I tell people. For example, let's say that you had a T-shirt and you dunked it in a bucket of water. You brought it out, you kind of wring it out, and then you hang it on a clothesline. The thing's wet, and then you rely on the air that's coming by to dry it, and eventually that t-shirt's dry. But that t-shirt's dry, but that humidity just didn't disappear. You know, it left the t-shirt, but it's back in the air. It is the same thing with plants. You know, the more that you blow on the leaf, you're gonna dry it, and the plant's too dry now, so the plant's gonna suck more water, more nutrient, more, you know, more juice, more nutrients, whatever, and it's gonna keep respiring because it's got to stay hydrated. But that air is going into your envelope, and you're kind of chasing your tail because, you know, especially at later stages of your cultivation of the plant, you know, it's colder, so the humidifiers, the dehumidifiers struggle to take the humidity out of there, so you're kind of chasing your tail. So I remember that, yeah, we went through this rabbit hole, and then we started tuning the air to a specific stages of the plant life. And then, you know, the graphs don't lie. You know,
Right.
we would see the graph, and, you know, whenever the graph would get to its lowest, start climbing, we knew that was the speed that was perfect for that stage of the plant.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. And that's where, you know, having the ability to custom tune these fans came in, because as soon as the lights kick off, that's when you get your big humidity spike. You know, the lights give off all the relative heat, burns off a little bit of humidity, and the plants just go nuts right when the lights turn off. I think everybody in the industry deals with that to a certain extent. And so I knew that as soon as the lights turned off, if we could have the fans shut off at the exact same moment, or not shut off, but dim down to a reasonable amount of airflow, we could eliminate, or at least, you know, minimize the amount of humidity spike we were getting, and it did just that, you know. And that's when I realized too, it's not just the moisture from the leaves that you're sucking out, it's also from the medium as well.
The Rockwell,
Yeah,
yes.
and with
The
Rockwool,
air
right?
blowing through the
the-
rock, you know, on top of the
exactly.
rock was drying it. All that moisture is going into the air.
Right.
Correct.
So now, you know, your plant is being whipped by all this air and drying out, and then the mediums also, the moisture from the medium is being whipped out. So you're not having to do night shots. There's all kinds of maintenance that you have to do that comes along with it. Like you said, you're chasing your tail. You're giving the medium more moisture because it's drying out too fast, but then your plant is getting whipped by all this
I
air.
remember that.
Yeah,
I
and the
remember
plant.
that. We
So
we had a lot of issues at nighttime too, and they were all related. A lot of the time, a lot of that was related to too much airflow at night. It was
yeah,
drying the
hundred
medium,
percent.
and then we had to, you know, the EC was spiking, and we had to give them night shots. Once we started dimming down the airflow at night, um, we stopped that.
Yeah. It was great because we figured it out. Like you said, I mean, so many arguments over what to do, and like,
Oh, so
you know,
many
we were
arguments.
just feeding all night long, and we were just like, oh, are we over vegging the medium? You know, what is it? You know, and
Oh, I remember the arguments because people would tell, "No, we're over vegging and this and that." And they're like, "We're not over vegging."
well, we kind of were over vegging. We were over vegging a little bit. You know, I'm still gonna hold that one to the
Yeah.
chest. You know, like we were definitely over vegging a little bit, but in reality, the airflow being consistent from the day to night was really hurting us in regards to that. And as soon as we dim that airflow at night, or the speed of the fans, it just helped us out tremendously. And that was like when you were like, hey, TrolMaster's coming out with a fan line. We're gonna be able to do that with all of our fans, because we couldn't do that with the can fans in the beginning.
The canvas. No,
I mean, you would be able
you
to
have to go
explain better.
underneath the carriage, and it had three speeds. You know, no, three which high, two
Yeah,
medium,
low, medium, high, right?
you know, and low. And you're not going to go. I mean, I had $32,000 worth of can fans, 8-inch can fans at our facility. There's no way that you can go and then start turning them all down and stuff like that. It just
Right.
it
Like
just
you're gonna have somebody that's their job at the end of the day, or come back in when the lights turn off, depending on when your cycle is throughout
yeah,
the
it's not
workday.
going to work.
It's not gonna work, right? So you were like, hey, TrolMaster's coming out with the AeroFan line, and we're gonna be able to do this with all of our fans, our air glide fans, our carriage fans, our ceiling fans, everything. I was like, oh, this is music to my ears.
We're going to be operate them from the controller, from the controller, from a handheld remote,
From my phone.
from your phone.
Yep.
You know, no issues. As a matter of fact, today we had Sticker Farmer
Yep.
putting a bunch of big logos on the walls, and we were actually coming here.
Some very beautiful Grodan logos.
Grodan logos,
Grodan
TrolMaster
logos, they look
logos,
TrolMaster logos, ThinkGrow
Big Grow
logos.
logos on the walls, and these fans, you know, we're giving them a hard time putting these decals on the wall, And I wasn't there. I got a call from Brian from Sticker Farmers. I said, "Hey Alex, can you shut down the fans? There's no switches. Can you shut down the fans?" And I go, "No problem. Let me call Josh. Josh will do it through the phone." So that's just another benefit that I was able to.
Yeah, easy, easy.
That's
And then
funny
I
that
don't
it
even
happened
got to be
today.
there. Like, hey, they're done. Okay, pop it on my
Exactly
phone. I'm like,
today.
hey, turn them right back
Turn them
on.
right back
It's
on.
all good to go.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's perfect. So that was actually, that's kind of funny that happened today. But anyway, to the viewers that are just tuning in, Josh is the director of cultivation of Miami Mango, and him and I, he's Josh, like I said on the last podcast, he's got great work ethic, unmatched work ethic, kind of like me, and then he's also got for passion and love for the cannabis plant and for this industry. And him and I used to, when we started the facility, um, it's a new facility, a lot of new people, new nutrient line that we developed. By the way, mango juice is cracking now. But we used, there was every facility's got its own quirks, it's got its own things that happen that you gotta learn from it. No matter how badass the facility is, there's always some tweaks and quirks that got to work out. And then one of these things was airflow, and then I think we were able to nail it down. And the AeroFans from TrolMaster are badass. We have a plastic line, and they come in four different sizes: 6-inch, 8-inch, 10-inch, and 12-inch. They're like an inline fan. You can put a sock into them, or you can use it. You can also use it as air circulators. If you happen to have low ceilings and you have a double tiered, you can put the 6-inch fans up top. You just got to put a lot, more of them to be able to exchange the air. We like to put them underneath. We like to mount them underneath our racks. A lot of people will put fans where they're those 20-inch fans, from Home Depot fans, or they'll put those rug dryers. There's always cords that are across the floor, which is a safety hazard. And those rug dryers, they draw a lot of amps. They draw like 10 amps or 8 amps per fan. The one thing about TrolMaster fans is they're EC motors, and they draw low amperage at startup. They kind of ramp up slowly. They don't just turn on. And also while they operate, they draw low amperage.
Yeah, and speaking of that, the original air glide system that we had was with the can fan on top of it, and we tried to put those dimmers on them because the same thing was happening with the can fan. The airflow was just too aggressive when the plants got too close to the lights, and where the air glide system where the air comes out. And so we were like, how can we dim these? And we tried to put those dimmers on there, but they kept tripping the breakers.
Yes, the problem was that we know there was dimmers for the fans. They were anywhere from like $300, which is as much as the fan, if not more. And they were huge. They were just there's this monstrosity of a thing, and I go, I'm not putting that on my racks. I'm not putting those things on my racks. Plus,
The
they're
aesthetics would
expensive.
kill you.
Yes,
Aesthetics
it's
would
got to
kill
look
you.
good too. I'll
Yeah.
take functionality number one, but it's also got to look good. But and then these other less expensive little fan buddy or whatever they were called.
Yeah, like
The
speed buddies,
speed buddies,
something
yeah,
like
speed
that.
buddy,
Yeah,
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 something like that. They were a little small. They were inexpensive, like $30 or $40 a piece. What happened is that as they curved the current from going into the fan, but they spiked the amperage, so that we started blowing breakers. So I think after we did 3 racks in F4, flower room 4, they started popping breakers. Like, fuck, this is not going to work.
right.
So it's not, while we were doing this with TrolMaster, and I would give them feedback and then tell them all about all this, and then, hey, don't worry about it. We got EC fans coming. They ramp up slowly, because one of the things that I said is, when you have spray mode in these rooms, during work hours, the sprayer is going to go spray mode. He's going to shut off all your fans. And later on, all your fans are going to come out 35 minutes after he sprayed, or 45 minutes, an hour later, whatever you set it to. All these fans are going to turn back on. And what happens is they draw so much power. I'm going to give you an example. Going by memory, the 8-inch can fans operate at 2.8 amps, I believe. That's the operating amperage rating. But when they cranked on, I believe they would spike close to 28 amps,
Jeez.
which is tremendous. So imagine you have 13 racks with 2 8-inch fans underneath each rack. And then you have the 12-inch air glide fans that come with it. There were 12-inch.
Mm-hmm.
Those turn on. I forget how I forget how many amps those drew. So we were popping breakers left and right. That didn't work. So you had to break those. You had to separate those racks from different breakers, which breakers are not cheap. I don't know if you guys ever bought Siemens breakers for these breaker panels. They're not cheap. They're expensive as hell. $200-300 a piece for these big boys, and then you start occupying panel space. The panels are not cheap. The wire's not cheap. Breakers are not cheap. So that's one of the things that I would talk to TrolMaster is that with these EC motors and this low amperage operating fans, it saves you money. At the end of the day, it saves you money because you're not spending that money on more panel space, more panels, more wire, more conduit, labor, breakers, and operating costs. So at the end of the day, it's just a better fan all the way around, and it makes the functionality of the fan, 1,000 times better, and it's easier for the cultivator to operate the room. Better results.
And the AeroFan fits seamlessly in the Grow Glide system. Right, we
Absolutely.
just popped it right out, popped those old can fans out, popped the new AeroFan right in, and it worked great.
Yep. And then for those of you that are watching, there should be every once in a while a link below. A link below that gives you a tutorial that gives you a link to tutorial on how to install these fans. I'm not gonna lie, it's not as easy as plugging in a fan and turning it on. There is some low voltage communication cables that got to get connected from fan to fan, and then eventually from the fan to the FRC1, which is the digital remote controller, so you can operate your fans from this thing, and then from here they go to the controller. You can operate these fans from the Hydrex Pro outside of your room, from the hand controller inside the room. I like to put the hand controller inside the room so you don't have to walk outside the room, and then you can also operate them from your fan. So the possibilities with this AeroFans is definitely almost endless, you could say. The sizes. We also have a metal line. We have a 10-inch and a 12-inch, and those are to fit for like air glides or vertical air solutions, to where they go into these manifolds and then blow in the two-tier systems, so it can deliver air on top of the canopy. One of the things that we learned through this is that that too much airflow is the thing, and a lot of people think that have to be full bore, and once again that's not the case. We learned that on these air glides, we just want just 1 meter.
Light breeze,
Yeah,
keep it gentle, keep
light
it,
breeze,
yeah, light
exactly.
breeze. Yeah.
The plants respond actually better than just getting beat up by it.
Right,
Beat
and
up by
it creates a more even,
canopy.
transpiration and canopy and everything that comes along with it too.
Cool. Another one that I want to touch base on is this big red fan 20-inch,
The big dog.
the big dog behind me. When TrolMaster and I were coming up with these fans, they asked me, do you think we need a 30-inch fan? I go, no, absolutely not. I don't think you need a 30-inch fan. 20-inch is more than enough. You just got to put a couple more because you want even airflow through the room. You want to turn over air. You don't want just a fan over here that's just blowing out 100. You want several fans, and at the same time, and just like Josh said, if you happen, the ability with these fans, if you happen to have an area that it's hot or cold or humid, and you need a little bit more airflow in there, you can group those fans together to be able to speed the airflow in that area. Sometimes ACs break.
Right, right,
Sometimes
exactly.
ACs break. And guess what? If you know that there's a fan over here that's blowing that way, it can help pull cold air from this area, because the AC over here is broken and it's hot. So you turn these fans, you group these fans to blow that way at a little higher speed, to kick some of that cold air to that area that might need some help until you get your HVAC guy over there to be able to get your AC back online.
Right. Unfortunately, it's something we all deal with in the industry. Equipment goes out all the time. So just having a backup plan, something to mediate the issues immediately, is always a good thing to have as far as SOPs as a cultivator, for sure.
Like what I tell people, it seems like nowadays, we're pretty much equipment repairmen. I think we maintain equipment. Everything's automated nowadays.
Clean cannabis is no accident. Clean cannabis takes a lot of work. You got to be careful on what kind of medium you bring into your facility. That's why we partnered up with the best medium company out there, GrowDen. What's up, guys? I'd like to take this time to thank our current sponsors. First and foremost, I would like to thank TrolMaster. TrolMaster is the king of automation. Nothing else like it in the world. It really is the future of intelligent farming. Also would like to thank ThinkEarlyD, the king of spectrum tuning. High tech, high yields. Last but not least, I'd like to thank Mango Juice. If you ain't juicing, you're losing.
There's a reason for that. Cannabis used to be super profitable back in the day. You used to make 8 times what it cost you to grow. Nowadays is it's almost 1 to 1 per se, and you can't afford to have a hiccup. I
Right.
believe that technology nowadays. A lot of people say, "Oh, we used to grow this way and go that way," and everything's automated nowadays. The reason why it's automated is because you cannot afford to have any hiccups.
Right.
A hiccup will put you out of business nowadays.
Right.
So,
Especially here in Sacramento, this is the most competitive market, in my opinion. And you can't
and I
afford these
agree.
hiccups because then you won't be able to sell your product or you're selling it at a very low cost.
And I agree. Not only are we growing in the mecca of the world, which is California, but I'd have to agree with you that you know, being from an outsider and coming here to California, that I believe that Sacramento is one area that has the highest level of cultivators in one area. In California.
Yeah, and that's no disrespect to any other part of California. I just think the concentration of cultivators that came here when legalization popped off, right? This was one of the first counties really that accepted legalization, and they blew out the industrial section, and they were like, "Yo, everybody can come here and start building." They started giving out permits like crazy, and I think everybody just kind of flocked here. The power, isn't highest in the state. There was a lot of warehouse space that was available, and the proximity close to the bay, right? It's not too far from LA. You got Stockton in between, those kinds of things. It's a hub for cultivation. It
It
really
is.
is.
Sacramento is like I said, is about 2 hours from the Bay, 2 hours from Tahoe, 2 hours from Redding, and 2 hours from the Fresno area. It's a nice little central hub. Happens to be the capital. And as a matter of fact, in this area where we're sitting right now and where our grow is, because we're only about a mile and a half from our grow, is Sacramento District 6. I believe there's total 8 districts in Sacramento, and we're located in District 6. And District 6 has 2.5 million square feet of canopy, of indoor canopy in this district. There's definitely a lot of high end cultivators in this space. From connected, Alien Labs, Green Dog Cannabis, and Lumpies, and just to drop a couple of names. That's the kind of caliber. Blueprint,
Yeah,
Blueprint,
all
and
those guys. I mean, I think the best product coming out of California is coming out of Sacramento. That's just indoor product, at least in my opinion.
yep.
Not saying that because we're here and the Mango Tech store's here, but I just really think a lot of these legacy farmers and a lot of these guys that were really coming up in the game around the time legalization happened, this is kind of where they all settled. And that's also something that we can give a lot of credit to because I've learned a lot from the people around this general area. I mean, so have you. I mean, we reach out to people all the time. We're like, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And vice versa. They
Mhm,
call us for tips all the
mhm.
time too. So
That's another thing that's unique to Sacramento, and not now that you say it, I've heard several people mention it and discuss it. Um, just like everybody uses this word, the community, but there is somewhat, even though we're all cultivators and we're all very competitive, and we want to grow the best weed. And what's the best weed? What's better, chocolate or vanilla or strawberry? Best weed is whatever you like, but everybody wants to be known to to cultivate high end cannabis. But everybody here seems to help each other. There's other companies like Indoor Sun Hydro, and they connect with Sergio and stuff like that, and they throw events. And like I said, we're all in competition, but at the end of the day, at the same time, we all help each other.
right.
It is definitely a unique. I'm not going to say weird because it's a unique, helpful situation in this area to where it's very competitive, but it also everybody helps one another.
Yeah, and I'll speak for myself. I don't want to see anybody fail. I
Mm.
see I see a lot of these guys at the grocery store. You know, like they got families. People are trying to feed their families out here and make a career out of something that they've been doing now for 10 plus years. And I don't want to see anybody fail. Like I gladly would extend my hand and help people whenever there's a chance to, because someone did that for me at one point.
Mhm.
So I always feel like paying it forward that way is the right way to do it. And there are people out here that want people to fail. I mean,
Oh,
I
there's
know
always the
that.
haters.
There's always those, yeah, there's
There's
always
always
those
the
type of
haters, baby.
people.
You know, I got lots of them. Like a
Yeah.
couple of friends will tell me, there's Mango. You gotta think you might have more haters than lovers, and it is what it is. I guess maybe I'm
That
doing
is
something right.
100% a fact. Yes, that is a fact.
For what? For somebody that makes memes on Instagram, it's like, come on, you know, get a life. But
Yeah.
like I said, it
But
is what it is.
but it's true though. We all see each other. We all go to indoor sun hydro. I mean, most people, right?
Yep,
Like someone's got TrolMaster. Like you know, people are calling us all the time, just
all the
out of
time.
the blue. Like, hey, you know, they call us directly. Like, can you help me out with this? Can you help me out with that? I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. Like, we deal with it all the time. Here's a tip. You know, here's a way to make it easier for you. Whatever the case may be. Yeah, I think the community is really strong here in Sacramento, and I think a lot of people are just, you know, willing to share more information nowadays, just in general. I mean, back in the day, it was like everything was a secret. You know, we talked about this on the last podcast, and now we're
Yeah,
giving it all out. Like
yeah,
we're
we
doing a full podcast over, you call it a failure if you want, but like we were at one point chasing our tail trying to figure out this air, or why were we drying back so hard at night? You know, why, how could we control humidity better at night? How could we get rid of these spikes and this and that microclimate? Like just going back and forth, we figure it out. And now we're going to let everybody know, because somebody for sure is dealing with
is
that
dealing with
same
this.
stuff we were dealing
Is
with.
dealing with this. They're drying their
100%.
shit too much at night. They
Yeah.
have to give night shots, and I'm not saying that you'll never have to do a night shot, because as a matter of fact, I was just talking to you know, our floor managers the other day, that they said, wow, we had to do a night shot because their plants are beasting. I mean, we're always just like anybody else. We're always trying to improve our game. We always try stuff, and just because it didn't work at that time, it doesn't mean that it wouldn't work. There was other issues that we were having back then that we thought whatever we're doing now was an issue, but that wasn't the issue. It was something else. And cultivation it plays tricks on your mind, because you've been doing this for a long time, and you places are different sometimes. You know, you could have two buildings that are built the same, but for some reason, you know, XYZ at that part of the town it worked, and then another one didn't work, and you know, you sometimes you scratch your head and you're like, it's the same thing and it doesn't work. So like I said, every place has got its quirks, but some of the issues that we were having back then were sometimes self-induced, or we just didn't understand, you know, the stuff that we understand now. So
Right.
I'm not saying that if you put AeroFans is going to eliminate every issue that you ever had at night, but I guarantee it's going to alleviate a lot of the problems that you had with night shots. If you can control your airflow, just, you know, by looking at a graph, and you go pick up your phone and then you slow down your fans to the point that you see the graph, you know, the humidity, you know, it's not climbing anymore, it's kind of going down, and then you find that plateau, you bring it down, and okay, then it starts rising. You can play with your speed on your fans, and then find out what the sweet spot is for that stage, and then you can take, you know, mental note, or you know, write it on your data, at this room, at this stage, this is the wind speed that you want. This is,
Right.
you know, the stuff like that. And that's kind of what we've done in pretty much most of our rooms, and they kind of work the same, you know, single tier, double tiered, and it's brought up our game tremendously.
Definitely. Definitely. And we have AeroFans to thank for that.
Thank God for Arrow fans. So now you know, you heard it here. This is a pretty cool podcast. You know, like I said last time that I had him on the show, I asked him what his favorite TrolMaster piece of equipment, and he's always said AeroFans, which is weird to me, because you know, there's other things that I
There's a
like.
lot of equipment. It's all cool, you know, but I just I used to just get so pissed off when we would yell at each other in the rooms. And
Oh,
I'd just be like, God, dude, these fans, my throat is hurting. We're arguing so much. And it was over these problems that we were having,
yeah,
you know? So it was like literally the problem was right in our face.
right in
Like
our face.
it was trying to tell me in so many different ways, like this is the problem.
Like you guys don't understand, but sometimes, I mean, it would be like the lights turn on at 6 in the morning, the lights turn off at 6 in the afternoon, and sometimes him and I would be the last ones there. You know, 5:30, 5:45, sitting on the epoxy floors. You know, just against DPS panels, going just like this, like, you know, like what's the problem,
Yeah.
what's going on, and like you say, we used to just kind of argue with each other, and go back, this is the problem, and then he says, no, that's not the problem, just like any cultivator has done it since the beginning of time,
For sure.
and then you're going back at each other, and then that's what makes you better.
I would go home to my wife and I'd be like, I don't want to talk. Like like physically, like I just don't want to talk. Like, but like you're saying, I wouldn't have figured out a lot of the things that we figured out if I didn't stay. Like and sit there, and you would come into my office and you'd be like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" I'd be like, "I'm just gonna stay until the lights turn off. Like I'm gonna sit in the room. I'm just gonna sit on the floor, and I'm just gonna watch and be in the room when everything happens."
Yeah.
You have to be dedicated. You have to be in the room. I tell the guys that all the time. Like you have to sit there and watch it.
Yep.
Watch you set an irrigation schedule. I want you to stand in the room and I want you to watch every single irrigation event as it goes throughout the room. Because I want to see, did you overlap something, or is something incorrect about what you scheduled? It's the same thing with the lights, like, did you group this specific section correctly? Is it going to stay on an extra 5 minutes, 10 minutes now that we're doing things like far red spectrum tuning, right? It's like, you have to be on point with these things, and you might leave something on accident, and you have to be there. You have to be willing to put in the hours, put in the time, sit your ass in the grow room and just watch everything happen. That's like one of my biggest forms of advice I could give cultivators that are having a lot of issues. Sit in your room and just watch everything happen.
As a cultivator, if you've been cultivating for a long time, in any grow room that you've walked in for any period amount of time, you can walk into those rooms and kind of know something's off. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, immediately.
Something's off, and it might take you sometimes a little bit longer than other times, but you'll say, hey, or you'll say, hold on a second, because there's something ticking, or there's something not. There's a different sound, because all rooms have this hum to them. Unless you're a cultivator, you don't understand the humming from the fans, from the dehumidifiers, from the ACs, from the ballast. Even when we used to have those, 1,000 watt, ballast, they're humming.
Yep.
They all have a hum, and when the room is working properly, it's all like a dude in an orchestra kind of running it. But when there's the dude over there's got the violin that is not tuned, and there's something off.
A conductor.
The conductor, the conductor, with the orchestra, and then there's something off. You might not know right off the bat, but there's something weird.
Yeah.
Until you kind of figure it out. And only cultivators that have been cultivating for a long time will understand what I'm talking about.
For sure.
Cool. Let me see. What else we might have to cover on the AeroFans? I think.
Smart sensing. Did you talk about the smart sensing?
Yeah, I believe I did. Mm-hmm.
Okay, the voltages. I think that's pretty good.
That's pretty good. I think I can wrap it up. I think it was an easy one.
Yeah. Sushi.
Okay.
Sushi.
All right. All right, guys. I think we have concluded this episode number 2, discussing the AeroFan line from TrolMaster with the director of cultivation, Josh Parker. And you guys, once again, check out the link below. And go check it out. I'd like to thank our sponsors, TrolMaster, Think Early D, Mango Tech Store. Thank you guys for making this possible. Hope you guys all watch the podcast, and we're going to bring you some kind of different style podcast in the future. We're going to bring you some culture, some cultivation or grower or cannabis industry issues. So stay tuned. Once again, the tutorials. The tutorials very, very important. This is not your regular fan that you're going to plug into a wall and have a knob. Yeah, there's a little bit more to it. So it's very important for you to click the link, check out the tutorials. Until next time, Mango's out.
You want to do that one more time?
Nah.
All right.
Nah.
Sushi.
Let it run.
What's up, guys? I'd like to thank one of our main sponsors, Mango Juice. 3-part nutrient, no additives, won't clog your lines. If you ain't juicing, you're losing.